Morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Routed Up. This week, we are in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, so we're going to discuss a few things that have taken place. We're going to put some predictions out there. We'll talk a little football. We appreciate y'all stopping in. JMIK, good morning. How are you today?
Man, I'm doing good, man. It's been an eventful week, man. I mean, Wild Card Weekend was a good weekend for football, and we in a divisional. So, I mean, the stakes is raised higher. So I mean, and we're gonna see what these teams about to do.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's been you're right. It has been an eventful week. It definitely has been an eventful week. But nevertheless, we move forward. Wild Card Weekend. Just give me your quick synopsis on how Wild Card Weekend was.
I mean, Wild Card Weekend pretty much went how I thought it was gonna go in most games. I mean, the games I picked, I was mostly right. I say the least surprising game was the Bills game to me. Probably the Bills and the Ravens game. I kind of expected that. I was hoping that the Steelers would give more, more of an effort, but I really wasn't expecting too much from them. That's what I expected. The crazy game to me had to be the Rams Vikings game because I thought the Vikings going in there had a good chance. I picked the Vikings to win. And that is not what happened. I mean, Sam Darnold kind of reverted back to what people thought he was. We've seen that the last week of the season, and we kind of saw that in the wild card game. And Arizona. Obviously they were playing the Rams, but the game got moved. And Sam, like, I'm not blaming Sam for that whole game because that O line wasn't really that good either. There's several areas of that team that just weren't good. And in the back of my mind, I kind of knew like the only issue I had with the Vikings was Flores and his blitzing scheme because I seen y'all game and I'd seen my game against the Rams and you can't blitz that team. Like you can't blitz Stafford.
Right.
And he tried doing that, and Stafford gonna get you like he's just a guy that you can't blitz. I mean, you try blitzing that guy, he will murder your defense, and that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised really too much with Wild Card Weekend either. I thought some of the games was snooze fest. Um, I think after watching some of the quarterback performances, it's time to start really having some tough conversations. Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, like it's time to have some conversations about those guys. Let me ask you this, Jay man. Do you think Sam Darnold cost himself some money over the last, 2-3 weeks?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he definitely did. I mean, I'm not one of the people who say, oh, I'm gonna give him a $15 million deal because that's just not what like second and third tier quarterbacks are gonna get. Like that's where I got Sam like the second, third tier quarterbacks. But he definitely cost himself some money because if he would have played well in the Lions game, and even if they lost, the game played well. He would have played well against the Rams and they lost. I don't think it might have been minimal, but I mean, he could have been talking about before those two games, maybe 40 million or 45, maybe if you find the right team. But now, I mean, you're not gonna get 40. I mean, he might be getting somewhere maybe like 30, 32, but it's just it just wasn't a good look because that's what people remember Sam Darnold being a kid that just holds the ball too long. And that's just what he was doing. I mean, at some point you got to get rid of the ball. And I mean, teams are looking at you and just like, I think he got sacked 7, 8 times, and a lot of them sacks was he was just holding the ball too long. So yeah, like I would definitely say he cost himself some money. He's still going to get paid. The only difference now is the Vikings might not keep him though. Like the Vikings might just let him go.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I mean, 30 million is like I guess that's the low end for quarterbacks. I could see that like a three, like something like kind of what Baker got, like 3 years, 100 million, somewhere around there, and have like 90, 88 or something like 85 to 90 guaranteed. Yeah. But we move forward. Most of the teams that we thought were gonna win, were gonna ended up winning. Houston pulled it out. The Commanders. I mean, I didn't pick the Commanders, but the Commanders got it done. Um, I was surprised, man. Like that was a surprise, but you let the team hang around. Jane Daniels has proven it all year. Um, but we go forward to the divisional round. Obviously, the biggest game um, of the weekend coming up is the Baltimore game and the Buffalo Bills. Who do you think from these two quarterbacks, both drafted in the same year? The both quarterbacks were probably most criticized and most dissected prior to them being drafted. Uh, in Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, who do you think has the most pressure on them to get this done and get past the Chiefs?
I mean, to me, so it's not like I look at it like it's the but it's also you got to look at the team too. So like for me, I'd have to go with Lamar, and it's not because of what he's done to play, but it's the position that his team is in. So what I mean by that is like when you look at his team, like the team he has is the team he has. I don't. I mean, like they're not resetting their roster. Like these are guys like you have Zay. I mean, they just drafted Zay, and I mean, like they have Derrick Henry. They brought in a lot of pieces. I won't say a lot, but they brought in Derrick Henry a piece to win now. And I mean, their roster is pretty much built out. Like I don't see. Maybe they can get better corners, maybe in the draft or free. I mean, there's certain positions they can add to, but I feel as if their roster is more finalized than the Bills. I mean, like, and so from the Bills' perspective, like like they had a bunch of veteran guys on their team that they let go. And they, I mean, like they acquired some people like Amari Cooper, but they drafted Keon and they drafted some other guys, and they have 10. I think is what they have, like 10, 11 draft picks coming up in this year's draft. So like Sean McDermott was trying to rebuild that defense. I don't want to say rebuild, but kind of more like retool it in terms of being younger. Um, and so like I just think from a roster standpoint, like the Bills, a lot of people didn't expect the Bills to even be in the playoffs. Like a lot of people didn't pick them to win a division. I wasn't one of the people because I actually picked them to win the East. But there were a lot of people that didn't pick them to win the division. A lot of people didn't even pick them to go to the playoffs because they thought once you took Diggs away from Josh wasn't going to be the same guy. I mean, Josh proved that wasn't the case. And so I just think the Bills got a lot of younger pieces on their roster. So I think they're going to be here for a while, which for me, it's telling me like, hey, like, I mean, and I'm not saying there's no pressure. Obviously, the Bills because you're here, you won your division, you're in the divisional. There's pressure to win because you got a home game. But I mean, for me, if the Ravens don't win, I'm like, well, how do the Ravens make their team better? Like, I don't know how much more better they can make the team. Maybe, like I said, in the secondary, maybe. But the Bills, I mean, at least I can point to the Bills in terms of development. Like they're like wide receiver core could develop and get better. They could draft a D tackle to kind of shore up their run defense even more. They could add a couple, safeties, safeties in the secondary. I mean, maybe some more corners. So I see for the Bills, I see the room for growth more. I mean, the Ravens, I just don't see the same amount of room.
I agree, man. I mean, with basically everything you said, I think because of the preseason doubts on the Buffalo Bills, the changes and everything else, Josh really cutting down on the turnovers, playing a really efficient football. The emergence of some of these other players on the team, I think, people will look at this and say, man, the Bills weren't even supposed to be here. This is a successful season. Now, as a Bills fan, obviously we're going to feel a lot different, but I think nationally, you got to look at these teams and say to yourself, you know, how much more help can you give Lamar? How much more help does he need? And you know that the Bills have $70+ million in cap space that is going to be relieved from the dead cap that we incurred from some of these moves in the offseason. And 10 draft picks coming up in the upcoming draft with 2 picks in the second round. So, they're going to get better. They're going to fill some holes. And they still have a really solid core. Like, you can upgrade a couple of spots. And you would expect a team that won 13 games to be right back here next year, provided the coaching staff stays the same. So, I agree with you, man. So, I mean, game of the week, for me, clearly, it's the Bills, Ravens. I mean, I'm gearing up when we're done here. I'm gonna take my suitcase, throw it in the back of the truck, and hit the road. I'm on my way up to Buffalo. So, this is a big game, man. I took Sunday and Monday off work. Like I'm here, man. Like this is what we've been looking for. Clash of two of the best quarterbacks, man. And it's probably going to do Super Bowl numbers, ratings wise. But what you got? What you got for the game of the week, there, man?
I mean, I would love to pick another game, but I can't. Like, there's a reason they put this. And the funny thing was, the second the Bills won, I knew this game was going to be on Sunday night. I had no doubt about it. It's the biggest game of the weekend. I mean, like you got the two guys that are fighting. I mean, to get to the conference championship game, probably to face Mahomes, or I mean, possibly the Texans because that's the game today. I mean, both guys are vying for the MVP as well. So it's kind of, I mean, like you gotta, I mean, over the last couple of weeks, like I mean, like there's been a lot of talk between Bills. I'm pretty sure between Bills and Ravens fans about that. And I mean, like now you get to play each other in, like the divisional game in Buffalo. I mean, from what I'm hearing, it's going to be extremely cold up there. So I mean, like it's going to make, it's going to make you feel like it's a real live. I mean, it's a playoff game, but it's like it's that real live January football. So I mean, you got two really, really good quarterbacks. I mean, you got two teams that can run the ball extremely well. And you have two deep. I mean, to me, like the Bills defense is underrated, and I feel like the Ravens defense to a certain point is I mean underrated because of for them earlier in the season, they were struggling. I think they started the season like 1-2 or 1-3. It was something like that they started the season, so they were struggling. The defense for the Ravens has always been able to stop the run. I think the top 5 in run defense. But the problem with their defense has always been the secondary. What I mean? Like Marlowe had a rough start to the year, but he's turned it around. So I mean, when you look at this game, like it's just like it's to me, it's the game. It's the hardest game to call the weekend. Like I mean, like I know who I'm picking for the game, but it's like I mean, you can go either way. And I like the storylines for this game. Like I just don't think like the other 3 games have the same storyline. So that's why I have it as game of the week.
I can't disagree at all. Upset of the week. Who we got? So if we look at the slate, we got Commanders, Lions, Texans, Chiefs, Bills. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Ravens, Bills, and then you got Eagles, Rams. So who is going to get upset?
I actually the funny thing was last week I picked the team. It was a home team. They were dogs. They have a defensive coach. It was the Houston Texans. I like the spot that they was in last week, and as a similar spot that I like this week. The Bills are playing at home. They are underdogs in terms of if you look at Vegas. I think they're -1.5 right now. Like the Ravens are favored by -1.5. And I like the spot for the Bills, man, because it's like you got to understand, like when you're a home team in the playoffs and you're not a favorite, like I'm pretty sure the coach is putting that in your face all week. You're in team meetings, you're at practice. I mean, he's pretty much telling you that they don't think you could beat this team. They think the other team is so much better than you that they're coming in your own building and they have them as favorites. So I got to think that Sean McDermott has like drilled that into his players' heads. And I mean, it's not just that. Like, I mean, Buffalo got a lot of reasons to be motivated. Like, nobody in the media really picking them to win this game. Everybody on the Ravens. I mean, like they didn't get like, going back a little bit. I mean, go back to the All Pros. They only have one All Pro, which is Josh Allen, which, I mean, we talked about it last week, or the week before. Like, I didn't really agree with that. Like, they should have more than one All Pro. And so I mean, they're going against a team that's everybody's picking, that they're the favorites coming into their building in Buffalo. And I mean, I can tell you better than anybody because I mean, because my team play Buffalo twice a year. Playing in Buffalo when Buffalo was a really good team, even when they're not really good, Buffalo is a hard place to play, especially when you get down to December, January. It's extremely hard to play there. It's cold, it's windy, and it's not easy. And so I just like the spot. I mean, like, I think the Bills are really motivated. I mean, they're trying to get to the Super Bowl. And this is a team that's in their way. So I mean, like that's the dog that I like this week.
Yeah, Sean McDermott is excellent in rematch games. Usually, when you beat the Bills under Sean McDermott, the next time you see the Bills, they win. And a lot of times, they win by a lot of points. Uh, I remember the Chiefs beat us twice in the 2020 season. They beat us in the regular season where they really just ran the ball down our throat. And then in the postseason, they won the AFC Championship game. When we played them again in the 21 season, I think it was like week 6 or it was like week 4 or 5 or somewhere around there. It was 38-20. Like we blew the Chiefs off the board. And that's usually how it goes. The Cincinnati Bengals, another team that beat us twice. They beat us in that playoff game where the Bills really looked bad, and then they got us last season in the regular season. But that was a very winnable game. The Bills had some costly turnovers in some bad spots. Um, Obviously, I agree with you. I think another team that can potentially win. I think it's the Houston Texans. Like I really want to give the Houston Texans a huge chance because of their pass rush. Um, and I know the Chiefs are very good at taking away what you want to do, your first option, which is for the Texans going to be Nico Collins. But after that, you got like Najee Johnson's gonna have to cover somebody. You're gonna have to get guys on, other guys are gonna have to make plays. And I think having a guy like Robert Woods, who's a veteran, who actually, he's excellent in sitting down in zone coverage. Smart, savvy guy who knows how to get open. You still have other talented players like Xavier Hutchinson. You have John Mechie. Like those guys can play, but the key, I think, to me for this game is going to be Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon has seen the Chiefs multiple times when he was with the Bengals. Doesn't like the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't like him. He is going to be looking for a way to get the Chiefs out of the way. And he's definitely gonna I think he's definitely gonna take this game personal, just like he did last week, and try to deliver the Texans out of Kansas City with a W. So I think the Texans have a shot. I wouldn't bet on it, but I think the Texans have a shot for sure.
Yeah,
All right,
I mean,
go
let me
ahead.
say one thing quick about the Chiefs. Like a lot of people ain't really been talking about their layoff. They've had a 24-day layoff, and I mean in football, like that's a huge deal. So I want to see how they come out in like the first half.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're well coached. I expect them to. I expect them to do what they do. I just think the Texans are extremely underrated. Like you look at it last week, man, there were so many people had the Chargers going into Houston and winning that game. And that game, honestly, it was kind of ugly. Like they just didn't look like they made the Chargers look bad. They really made them look bad. But that's how it goes, man. Super Bowl prediction, JMIK. Who you got?
Um, so on the NFC side, preseason I had the Lions. I'm not gonna come off of that. I'm gonna stick with that pick for them to make it to the Super Bowl. Like I just think they got to get past the Commanders this week. They're favored in that game. I think it's by like almost 10 points. But I do think the Lions should win that game. And then I think the Lions match up well against the Eagles. Like I think the Eagles are gonna beat the Rams. So I got the Lions in the Super Bowl. From the NFC, the AFC, the beginning of the season, I had chose the Houston Texans in the preseason because I like some of their additions. But obviously with the injuries, like I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the team that wins the Ravens Bills game is going to the Super Bowl. And if I feel like that, and I told you that the upset of the week is the Bills, then I got to tell you that I expect the Bills to make it to the Super Bowl. So I think it's going to be Lions Bills part 2, and we're going to see who's going to win that.
Yeah, I can't. I'm biased, man. I can't. I can't pick against that. I do think the Lions are the best team in the NFC. I got a good friend of mine, very good friend of mine, who's a Eagles fan, and we've been talking about this since the preseason, having the Eagles versus the Bills in the Super Bowl. But then I did some, I've done some content with a pair of Lions fans, my man Andy and Ian, and I'm sure that they're probably asleep. But if they end up catching this at some point, we talked about this as well when we in the preseason when we did our content. Um, I think the Lions are the best team, man. Like the injuries haven't slowed them down. They've gotten some guys back. I gotta go Bills Lions, man. I think the Bills win today. Roquan Smith said it's easy to prepare for this offense. I know the offense has been paying attention to everything that's being said in the media. Lamar Jackson said, I ain't trying to be friends. I'm trying to beat y'all. Okay.
I mean, that's
No problem. So Josh, yeah, Josh is a competitive man. He sees stuff like that and you know, how he gets. I mean, and the numbers bear out. Like Josh has been excellent in the playoffs. Lamar really hasn't. He's kind of struggled when he's going up against really good coach defenses. So this is another really good coach defense that is looking to avenge that week 4 loss. So I got the Bills, I got the Lions in the Super Bowl, and I got It's obviously, if that's the case, it's going to be a franchise's first, and I think the Mafia is going to be very happy. There's going to be a parade downtown Buffalo in a few short weeks. Let's go Buffalo! But
Yeah,
well, who you think gonna win? Who got winning that game? If the Bills and the Lions play.
I'm not like I can't. That's a question I can't answer yet because I got to see how these teams play the next couple of weeks. Like I gotta. I mean, like the Lions. Like I've been pretty stern on the Lions all season. I mean, I was even saying last season that the Lions are going to make the playoffs. When a lot of people were saying it too. But that's just the way I felt. And also had the Lions winning their division last year too, and that happened. Like I said, like I got to see how the Lions play. Because I mean, Montgomery's coming back, so I got to see how they're gonna use him now. Because I mean, before I don't say he was the main back, but like he was kind of the I mean, like he was the starting running back, and they would bring Gibbs in, and I think that dynamic is completely changed. So you got that, and I mean, if the Bills do make it to the Super Bowl, they would have had to beat the Ravens and the Chiefs. That is a hard that's a hard road. And the funny thing is, like I've heard people saying all week, like fans of the Ravens, even the Bills, like I want to play the best teams. I want to earn it. Like let me tell y'all something. From a guy that won a lot of Super Bowls, I don't care who I play. Like my concern is not to play the harder road, so when you do win to go to, in the offseason, oh yeah, I won the Super Bowl with the harder road. That shit don't matter. Like you got to win the Super Bowl. Like however you get there, how you get there. Like I don't care who I got to go through. Like if I got to go through the Chiefs and the Ravens, so be it. But if the Texans win, oh well. Like if Chief fans be like, oh well, you didn't beat us. I'm like, well, you should have won. That's not my problem. So that's the way I view it from a football mind. Like it's just like you don't got to go through the best teams. You just got to win the Super Bowl. So
Play who's in front of you, man. It's like
exactly.
just like telling Bengals, man. This playoff ain't the same because they don't have the Bengals in it. Well, this 2 years, it's 2 years in a row now. Win more games, and then
Exactly.
maybe the playoffs will feel better. But that's it for this week. Um, Short, we don't have that many games, so the show's getting a little shorter, but the games mean a lot more. I got a lot riding on this game coming up Sunday. My daughter Sheen card is on this game Sunday. If it go the way it's supposed to go, she gonna be fly in a couple of weeks. But that's all I got, man. JMIK, tell the people where they can find you, brother.
Yeah, so you find me on Twitter, JMIK. I'm pretty accessible on there, being spaces and like be on the timeline, all that good stuff. The Check Down podcast today at 11, and we're gonna talk about the college football championship game on Monday, and obviously we're gonna talk about the divisional round this weekend. And we're also gonna get into a little bit of draft stuff. I think we're gonna talk about the top 10 picks in the draft today, just to kind of preview that for the people that teams are not in it, so we have something to talk about with y'all too.
Okay, cool. J Mick, I'm kind of gonna put you on the spot here, but when the off season comes up, we do a little draft stuff on my pod. So if you can, bring you on, man. Talk some
Yes, sir.
dialing at Everett, or what's his name? The corner y'all got in
I think
Georgia.
yeah, I think it's Everett. Yeah, Everett's the
Yeah.
corner.
So
And then we got like two like linebackers that's supposed to go in the top 15 too. So
don't y'all got a safety too? Isn't
uh
Malachi?
yeah. I mean Malachi Starks, like he's gonna be a top 15 pick. And then we also have Dan Jackson. I think he just declared this week. I mean Dan a white boy, but I mean he will knock your block off, bro. Like that's I mean he white, but boy, I mean like the boy can hit. I mean he not gonna be a day one pick, maybe an early day 3 pick. So
Okay. Yeah, but that'd be great. So we'll talk about that in the back channel. And to everybody who comes in and supports, man, we appreciate it. We'll be back next week to discuss the conference championships and preview the Super Bowl, and preview those games and then talk Super Bowl. So uh thank y'all for tapping in once again. You can find me at Whittle 2K on Twitter. I do a podcast with my co-host Beyond 716. We do it every Wednesday, 9 p.m., talking Buffalo Bills football. It's called Coast to Coast. If you go to YouTube and put in Coast to Coast podcast NJ, you'll find it. And yeah, that's all we got, man. Thank you for showing up once again, and we'll see y'all next week.